Sorry.
Covered ground.
Yeah, we did well yesterday. We're on Tes Amud Aleph, towards the bottom. Shavuos Eidos.
You and I have to go back to the Mishnah. We're not going to know what they're talking about.
I'll go over this. Okay. In the Mishnah we learned that there are certain times that a korban is brought even though the sin was done intentionally. Now normally a korban is for unintentional sin. We have several cases that it was intentional as well. So we mentioned already a nazir that becomes tamei. His is even if it's intentional. We mentioned someone that lives with a shifcha charufa, even if it's intentional. Now we're up to Shavuos Eidos. If someone has administered an oath that he knows testimony and he lies about it, he says, I don't know anything. So he has to bring the korban for the Shavuos Eidos. So it's a korban olav yared.
Okay.
Now, minalan, where do we know that? The Tana Rabbanan was starting in the Brisa.
So where exactly are you?
Oh, it's the second wide line. Widest. Second of the widest line. Yeah, Shavuos Eidos. Minalan. Where do we know that Shavuos Eidos is even if it's on purpose? The Mezid. So how do we know that he also brings us the korban there? Intentional. Tana Rabbanan Mekulan Nemar B'Nelam. In that section, it's very interesting. If you look at that section, which is the last chapter in Parshas Vayikra 5, over there it has the list of sins that are chayav a korban olav yared, and that is Shavuos Eidos, Shavuos Bita, someone lies, not denying money, just and Tumas Mikdash Ukdash, if someone is tamei and he enters into the sanctuary. So over there it says there's three of them. By two of them it says v'nelam. And kan le'nemar v'nelam. Nelam means it was concealed from him. It doesn't say that it was concealed from him. That means it was done intentionally as well. L'chayev ala shegig k'mezid is probably supposed to say l'chayev ala mezid k'shegig. To tell us that he's chayev even if he does it intentionally. Shavuos HaPikadon. Here's another one. If someone has to swear that he doesn't have the object that was given to him as something to watch, he doesn't return it, and he says that he doesn't have it either. So minalan, where do we know that? That's chayav also, even though he's chayav a korban, even though it's intentional. Yalef techta mishvos eidos. Okay, we learned from Shavuos Eidos. Fine. Now the next part of the Mishnah said that chamisha meviim korban echad al averes harbe. There's 5 people that could bring one korban there's 5 people that bring one korban for many sins. So Ketani, it was taught habala shifcha b'yas harbe. If someone lives with a shifcha charufa, that means a shifcha, a maidservant that's half redeemed, half released, but he lives with her many times, so he only has to bring one korban for that. It's a different halacha than other arayas. Minalan, where do we know that? Tana Rabbanan was taught in the Brisa, v'kippur levakayin be'el asham al chatasi ashechata. The kayin will atone for him with his asham. It's asham shifcha charufa. It's a special type of guilt offering for the sin that he committed, for the sin that he sinned. Malami, this teaches us maybe korban echad al averes harbe, that he brings one korban for the sin that he committed, that he sinned. That means there's more than one sin there, and it's still only one korban. Then it says v'nisach le mechatasa ashechata, and he'll be atoned for the sin that he sinned. Lasis mezid k'shagig. That makes it, even if it's intentional, it's probably intentional. How could it be unintentional? Unintentional would be that he thought maybe it was his wife. It was dark. But this makes him mezid just like a shagig. A Shogeg always brings a korban. Over here, a mazid brings a korban as well. The Gemara asks, 1 second. The woman, it says, gets malchus. The man has to bring this korban. Bakra kiksiv b'mezid ksiv. What are you telling me? That the mechatase ashechata tells me that the mazid is just like a shogeg. It's talking about a mazid. It has to be a mazid because there's no malchus by a shogeg. There's no lashes by a mistaken. It does it the opposite. It's telling me that the shogeg brings the korban just like the mazid, even if it's intentional. And the shogeg must be the way we said that. Didn't realize who it was. It's a question over here. Rabbi Chanina Tirna. We need Reb David to tell us where Tirna is in that Steinsaltz. From Yasav Rabbi Yechanan. Habal Chamish Shifcha Charufas Be'elam Echas. Someone lives with 5 Shifcha Charufas. Very impractical question, but whatever. And he forgets. It's one forgetting. I don't know what one forgetting is. So one unknowing that it's he thinks that they're all his wife or something. I don't know. So Mahu. So if he lives with one Shifcha Charufa 5 times, so he only has to bring 1 korban. That was a special din. Even though it's 5 Averis, but it's only 1 korban. Special din by Shifcha Charufa. But let's say it's 5 different Shifcha Charufas. He's chayav for each one. So he asks, so what's the difference? 5 times with 1 and 5 ones with the different ones. Over there, 1 shifcha is not different bodies, but hey shifcha is gufin mechalakin, but 5 shifchas are different bodies. Okay, minolan the gabi shifcha gufin mechalakin. How do we know that we say that? Amalei lavarmet gami arayas. Did we not say when it comes to forbidden relations? It says v'isha. It has that extra word we learned in the beginning of the Masechta lachalak al kalisha v'isha. That each one is a separate. That's why we had the number 36 to tell us all the different times, or 34. That each one is a separate prohibition, a separate korban. So gabi shifcha namik sevashiyushka v'sisha shechva zera. He would lay with the woman. And it goes on, v'hi shifcha nefrefes leish, and it's the maidservant, v'hi shifcha lachalak al kol shifcha v'shifcha. It's coming to divide it up, that each one is a separate sin, separate korban. Okay, nazir shenitma tumas harbe. Another case was a nazir that becomes tummy many times is only going to have to bring 1 korban. Now, if he becomes tummy while he's tummy, he touches another sort of tumah. So then it's all considered 1 tumah. Yeah. So we got to figure out a way that he's going to be able to get away with only 1 korban, even though it's separate. He was already somehow some purification here. Okay, so it goes like this. Montana, who's this going according to? Amar Rav Chisda Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. It's Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda would be Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Elai's son. Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. So the Amar, he holds Naziris the Tara, the pure the pure Naziris Mishvi hu dechayla Allah. See, what happens is the Nazir that becomes Tameh, he has to wait 7 days, and he shaves his head. And then the following day he brings his karbanos.
I don't understand. Is that a Nazir not supposed to shave his head? So if he didn't have your...
No, but this is when he starts over. He has to start it over.
So does he drink wine?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
So, I'm saying, if he was doing that very
I got it. I understand. I don't know. So what's happening here is that he's starting over the Nazir. So he has to shave his head before he starts. And then, so the question is, when does the new Nazir start? Does it start on the 7th day after he shaves his head, or does it start from the 8th day from the korban? So, Mishkachasla, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda starts from the 7th day. Mishkachasla Shnitma B'Shvi. He gets tummy again on the 7th day. And then on the 7th day from that one, he gets tummy again. So, we're just adding up. And since there was no time that he was able to bring the korban because it wasn't the 8th day yet, that's why he's only chayav 1 korban for many tumas. We can't be earlier than the 7th day. It's no chiddush. It's all just the same tumah. So it has to be that the tumah is over, and it starts again. But so then if it starts again, so why does he only have to bring one carbon? So it's because he never had a time that he was able to bring the carbon similar to the Gemara before, to the nighttime. Okay. The Rebbe, because if you hold this Rebbe, even the Rebbe Nazir, when does the new Nazir start? That's only on the 8th day. So it's all the same tumah. But if it becomes tummy on the 8th day, and becomes tummy again on the 8th day. What's the problem there? Even the carbon, since there was already a time when he's able to bring the carbon, then you lose the point of the Mishnah. You're going to have to bring a separate carbon for each one. It must be Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. Now the Gemara asks, "My Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda? What is Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda? Where does he say this?" The Tanya was taught in a brisa. It says, "The kiddush esreishay b'yaymahu b'yaymavas karbonosav," that his head becomes holy on that day. That's on the day he brings his carbon divrei Rebbe. That's on the 8th day. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yom Teglachtai, on the day that he cuts the hair, which is the 7th day. So we're going according to Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda, you see if you do this, Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda is the same generation as Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda is not Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Lai.
So Rebbe is younger?
Rebbe is younger than Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Lai, but it looks like it's the same generation as Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda.
How do you learn from Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda when there's a special pasuk?
No, we're learning about Naziris. This is the pasuk is by Naziris. Oh, no, Shivcha Charufa tells me something. We learned that...
We're saying that the opinion of Shivcha Charufa that she is...
No, by the Shivcha Charufa we had a pasuk, Asher Yishkav Isha, that divided it up into separate cases.
And Rebbe doesn't hold it?
Rebbe, no, then there's 2 dots. Now we have a new case, Nazir Shinit Matumas Harbe. Now we have a new case of a Nazir. So Rebbe and Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda are dealing with the Nazir that only brings one carbon. Before that, we had a case of Shivcha Charufa. Someone lives with Shivcha Charufa many times. He only brings one carbon. Okay, yeah. Now the Mishnah says, a new Mishnah. In case anyone was lost, there's a new Mishnah. So a person that warns his wife not to be secluded with a man, so usually it's with a specific man, an individual man. Over here, this woman, the husband suspected her from inappropriate behavior with many men. So he says, don't be secluded with this one, with that one, the other one. A whole bunch of names he lists out over there. So, and shenisnaga negarim harbe, in a mitzayra that has many spots of leprosy. It means as he's becoming pure, he gets a new one. Becomes pure, he gets a new one. So the halacha is in these cases that the saita brings only one mincha for all of those seclusions. In other words, witnesses come and say she happened to be with this guy, with that guy, and the other guy. So when it comes to bringing the mincha, she brings the barley carbon, she brings just one. And the same is with the mitzayra that has to bring his karbanas, he only brings one. Hevit siparim v'nisnaga. If he brings the birds and he gets teras again, loy aloloi, they don't count. Now, we're going to see what this means. It doesn't mean exactly that. What do you mean they don't count? They don't count for what? Okay. Ad sheyavi chatasi, until he brings his chatas. The Gemara is going to explain what it means. Let's leave it. Rabbi Yehuda Imad sheyavi ashami. Rabbi Yehuda says it doesn't count until he brings his asham. We'll have to see what it means. Count for what? Okay. Let's go back. Minalan, how do you know that one carbon is good enough for many saita seclusions? It says Zeis Teiras HaKanais. This is the laws of the Kanais. The law of the Kanais. Teirachas l'Kanayin Harbe. There's one halacha for many warnings. Kanayin is warnings. He warned her, don't be secluded. So it means there's one carbon for all of those. Mitzayra is not going to go in Harbe. Mitzayra, that gets many spots of leprosy. Minalan, where do we know this? That he only has to bring one carbon. The ksiv, Zeis Teiras HaMitzayra, same thing. This is the law of the Mitzayra. That means Teirachas Mitzayra and Harbe. One. it's interesting because Hamitzaira
Yeah.
doesn't have the plural.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Is it from the word Zos?
Kanaos is plural.
Zos is singular.
Kanaos is plural in Shavua, and
Right.
this is
It's very
Torah
interesting
is singular.
It's very interesting that the woman doesn't listen to the husband. I don't understand.
I understand the first one, but the second one and the third one and the fourth. Okay. So. Yeah, I don't know. Just thinking about the word, we have a plural for mitzayra. Could have done mitzayraim or something, right? We could have done a plural there, but we didn't. Okay. We said that if he brings the birds and then he gets taras again, it doesn't count until he brings his chatas, and Rabbi Yehuda says until he brings his asha. The Gemara asks right away, 1 second. You started off the Mishnah saying that if someone gets taras again, you only have to bring one karban. Here you're saying that you bring the birds, they don't count, and you have to bring the birds again. So 1 second, even though the birds are not the karban, there's other karbanas that he brings. The birds are just part of the purification process. But something's funny over here because you're saying that one can cover it all, and now you're saying that you have to go back and redo the old one. The Gemara says, Chsuri Mechsra. We're missing words in the Mishnah, V'hachiktani, and it has to be taught the following. Hevi tziparim v'nesnaga. If he brings the birds, and he gets a nega again.
Can it be?
Yeah.
Those Taras HaMitzayra. If when one reads all the various sections that follow that, that talks about many different types of tzaras, so he uses the word taka singular, but it's really, in fact, in its description in the Torah, it's actually including multiple.
Maybe that's the pshat.
I mean, here it says Shinu Gersos. Wait, that little hey there, it says Negaim Harbe. So in other words, there's a lot of Lenegaim. There's a lot of different.
Yeah, well, I understand the correction of Lenegaim Harbe because we're talking about not Mitzrayim Harbe. We're talking about the one guy with many negas.
Right. So that's why. Well, it's still that's where the plural is playing.
But to hear what you're saying.
Right. Oh yeah.
So here we say, this is what's going on. He brings the birds, he gets taras again. So in maybe ala karban echad. He only brings one karban. Okay. But to establish if he's poor or wealthy, this only is determined when he brings the chatas. And Rabbi Yehuda says until he brings his karban asham. So what's going on here is that a mitzayra actually brings 3 karbanas. Well, first there's the birds. What happens with the birds is one gets shechted, and the other one, the blood of the live one, gets dipped in that blood and gets let to go free. So that's the bird process, and also the blood is sprinkled from its wings onto the person. But that's a purification process. It's not a sacrifice. Then you have 3 sacrifices. You have a asham, you have a chatas, and you have an oila. Now the chatas and the oila are sometimes brought differently than chatas and oila. It would be a female sheep and a male sheep. But if the person that has taras is poor, then he can bring birds instead. So it goes under that category. So let's say he's poor, but his wealth fluctuates. It goes up and down. Every day he's a different. He has a different amount of money in the bank, right? So how is this going to work? At which point do we say what sacrifice he could bring? So there's a machlekes here. There's a machlekes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda. Tanakama says that we determine what he brings by the chatas. if at the time that he's separating the chatas he's poor, then he can bring birds. If at the time he's separating the chatas he's wealthy, then he has to bring the animal. And Rabbi Yehuda says that we determine at the time when he's designating the asham, even though the asham doesn't fluctuate. The asham is always, that never switches. But nevertheless, that determines how wealthy he is when he's separating that.
That's not how we held way back when, where it said if in the interim the poor guy got rich and then got poor again, he owes the rich.
Yeah, it may actually be the same as before. Here we're saying what's the moment that determines it? Because over there we said that if it switches, he still owes the old one, right?
We said that he started poor, he ended up poor, but in the middle he got rich. He ends up having to do the rich equivalent.
Oh yeah.
That's all. I don't remember where that was and wherever we were.
I don't remember. I remember we had to decide if someone else was bringing the karbanos, and someone else was rich.
For another time.
Tanan Hassam. Start over there. Matzer Shevi Ashamai. If someone is bringing a Matzer that's bringing his Asham, Behesher, and then he gets wealthy, we determine his wealth at the time of the separating of the Chatas Div Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon is Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Lai, right next to him, is Hakol Eilach Achar, like we just learned. But the Brisa adds in one more opinion. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Aimer Hakol Eilach Achar goes after the time, his wealth at the time of the birds. Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav, Shlashim Mikra Chadarshu. These three learn from the same pasuk. Ashalitasig Yadai B'Tarasei. His hand can't reach in his purity. That means he's not able to afford the sacrifices. Reb Shimon Savar Davar Machapre. What does it mean? His purity? Something that cleanses him. That's talking about the chatas. Why? Because we learned in Erechin that Taras comes for 7 different averos, so he needs an atonement. Rabbi Yehuda Savar Davar Machshire. Rabbi Yehuda says something that allows him to eat kachim, and that's the asham that you put the blood on his thumbs and etc. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Aimer Davar Germ Leitara. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says B'Tarasai means something that causes him to be pure. That's the birds. Minute Tziparim. Okay. So far it's been easy.
Oh yeah.
Hint. Okay. Heisha Sheyolda Vladis Harbe. A woman that gave birth many times, and now the Gemara gives an example. What's the example? V'pila b'tech shmeina. But the example of this is that she miscarried within the 80 days. Nekeva of a female birth, because the 80 days. What happens is a woman that gives birth, she has 14 days of impurity, and then she has 66 days of purity. Even if there's blood, she's pure. Now, this woman, after the 14 days, she got pregnant again, and 40 days later, the child is considered. It's already considered a fetus, something living, a real child, and then not when it graduates from university.
Medical school.
So after 40 days of in the embryo in utero, it's considered a child. So that's 54 days, right? Because 14 plus 40 is 54 days. So she had her first miscarriage then. So then v'chazari pila teich shmeinim nekeva, and then she has another 54 days later from that. She has another miscarriage. So this is her third birth, and it's all within 108 days. So, Bahamapelas tumim, or a woman that has multiple births from one conception, and they're twins or triplets, but she doesn't give birth to them all in the same time. They come out later and later, like the Gemara Nida has. I think there was one twin was born a month or 3 months later. I think Gemara says, is that possible? And then I forget who it was, Abaya or Chizkiah said, oh yes, we had these guys in the yeshiva with us, they were twins, and one was born 3 months later, or something, or a month later. So, okay. Rabbi Yehuda says, the Tanakama is going to hold over here that you just bring one korban for the end, for the last one. When it's all finished. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Mevi al Arisha. Rabbi Yehuda says this is interesting. He says the first one for sure gets a korban. Mevi al Ashniya. The second one was within the first 80 days. 54 days was within, so that one doesn't count because it's included in the first one. And Mevi al Shlishis. But on the third one, which is after the 80 days, you see, because the second one doesn't count, it doesn't even start over. It doesn't count at all. So all we have is the original 80 days. The second one is 54 days, 140. That's already after the 80 days. But that third one counts. But the fourth one doesn't count because the fourth one is going to be within the 80 days again.
Right.
Okay. That's what he says. He says that you ignore the middle ones.
I have to say something. I just have to read you this. Identical twins could be born months apart. A pair of identical twins in Washington State could be born months apart. Their mother, they say a name, gave birth to Link on September 29th. Doctors are hoping to deliver his name, in another 15 weeks or so.
That's just in Washington
Not two
State.
uteruses.
That's
Two
just
separate
Washington
to extend
State.
his.
Two uterus.
This woman had 2 uteruses? Oh, I gotta read more. You knew all about this?
You have to pay the insurance.
Oh, that's I'm just trying to, because it's such unusual stories.
How do you know such a thing?
Twin transfers money.
Okay.
Thank you, Doc.
Doesn't say.
All right. Where's the hurricane going on?
Minalan, how do we know that there's only one korban for many births? Tani Tana Kamed Rav Sheshes. Tana taught in front of Rav Sheshes. Gemara tells us Rav Sheshes was known for his for the brises that he knew. Tana taught in front of Rav Sheshes. Zeis teres hayeledas l'zacher nekeva. This is the law of the yeledas, one that gives birth. Malamich mivia korban echad al v'lades harbe. It must be that the Torah tells me that there's one law that can apply to a lot of things. That's how it's working. Yeah. The Gemara asks, if that's the case, maybe if there's a birth and there's also ziva, where over there she also has to bring karbanas, maybe the birth, the karbanas of the birth should also cover the ziva, one karban for both. It's other types of tumah. You see, a woman that gives birth is tameh, and the karbanas are to allow her to come back to eating kachim. So Talmud Laimar Zeis. Zeis is an exclusion. This. The Gemara asks, Yachal Ketani Yachal al Leda val Aziva and maybe al Karban Echad al Meata Achla Dam V'Yalda Chanamidem Livin al Karban Echad. Okay, I get the halacha, but what were you thinking originally when you were asking this? I need Zeis to tell me that you only bring one korban for Leda, you bring one korban for Leda and another korban for Ziva. You can't combine it together. This is, let's say she ate blood, and then she gave birth. You're going to say that there's going to be one korban chatas for the Leda and for the eating of the blood? That's what you're going to say? You just throw everything into one bucket? And rather, you have to say it like this. Maybe you could say that one birth before the 80 days, in other words, she gives entirely separate births. Not the way we were saying now, that she gave birth and within 80 days she gave birth again. Within 80 days of the second one she gave birth again. The third one, within 80 days she gave birth again. Let's say it was totally 80 days apart. Separate children. Then you need separate karbanas. The Gemara wasn't saying ziva, and the Gemara meant to say that if it's entirely separate birth, you need separate karbanas. Okay. That's what we learned from says. she gives birth within 80 days, the Gemara says like this: Kishatim Tzilaymar, you're able to say that L'div Rabbi Yehuda, that according to Rabbi Yehuda, that says that Rabbi Yehuda's opinion was that the second one doesn't require a carbon, but the third one does. Rabbi Yehuda holds Vlad Rishon Goyrem, Vlad Rishon Maina. The first one is the significant one, and you count from the first one. And then, so the second one is nothing. And then the third one, you start again. And the Chacham hold that you count from the last one. They say second one, but what they mean is the third, fourth, fifth, whichever. Always the last one is when you count the 80 days. Gemara says, Pshita. What are you saying? If you're able to say, he says, that's obvious. That's what they're saying. Rabbi Yehuda holds. What are you elaborating on here? That's clearly what they said. Gemara says, giving birth to twins is what we needed to talk about. Could have entered your mind to say, that giving birth to twins, Rabbi Yehuda would agree to the Rabbanan. Why? Because over there we would say that maybe it's all one birth, and the second one would be significant. That because I wouldn't say that the second pregnancy is nothing, because the second pregnancy is a continuation of the first. So I would say maybe you do count from the second one, according to Rabbi Yehuda, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, if it's one conception. So Kamash Malan, that no, Rabbi Yehuda holds that